Hello my crafty friends. Today I want to share the long version of my cute little mummy that I did a quick short of last week, and I was getting ready for Card Buffet and I didn't have time to make a long video, but now I do. So this is what we made at Card Buffet. It's this cute little mummy made from the Gingerbread Man dies, and I just think the Gingerbread Man dies are amazing. I love them so much, and I want to show them to you first. So here they are. Look at this. It's huge. You get a lot. This is a big sheet here with these Gingerbread Men, and there is a stamp set, of course. Today we're just going to be using the face. You get several different faces, which is really fun for the Gingerbread Man, and I'm going to use this one because it looks like kind of he's saying boo. I love that. But it's an adorable, adorable stamp set. So cute. And I know I'm going to get a lot of use out of him, but I just really love these dies. I want to show you a few cards I got in a swap that explain the dies really well. And you can see here that the hands are attached. It's not because they're holding hands, it's because it makes a card. So it's really fun, and somebody sent me in my, a lot of times demonstrators, we like to do swaps, and I have a team swap and just a general demonstrator swap. So here this person made it and attached the hands and left it, so that's the card, and you can write on the inside. Now she also attached it to a big card, which you could decide to do or not. You can have save on cardstock and have it just on a postcard, or this is actually large enough that it fits into an envelope, and you could just make a card with just little Gingy here and not add a base, because it's got enough room to write a quick little greeting. This would also be great for a tag. You could put on the inside, you know, that you made these cookies, and there's a stamp that says, well, it says Baking Spirits Bright or Seasons Eatings. Really fun. And you can put that you made these gingerbread men for them and give these to your neighbors. And so you don't need to put it on a card. It would make a really great tag for some baked goods too. And adorable for a scrapbooking page. You can put some journaling in here about whatever the page is talking about. So it's adorable, adorable, and I love the size. It's just huge. It's the biggest gingerbread man that I have. I have several. I keep the old ones from before. Now the idea for the mummy came from a different one we used to have called Cookie Cutter Christmas, and it had a Christmas set, but then there was like an additional add-on one that had a mummy and a scarecrow, and I have it somewhere and I just don't know where it is offhand, and I didn't look for it, but it's somewhere in my office. Another little gingerbread man with mummies and scarecrows. In fact, I saw somebody on Pinterest made the gingerbread man into a Frankenstein, and someone else made it into the scarecrow. So it's super cute and versatile. All right, there's also, I can't not point out this one. This is also in the online exclusives. It's called Homemade Treats, and I love the From the Kitchen of. And look at this, it's like rolled out dough. And then these are the little pieces that were in the dough. So you can have the roller and a little, so cute. It's beginning to taste a lot like Christmas. I just think these are so cute, and I am a baker, so to me they're amazing. Okay, so I showed you this one. Another thought I had for the Oh Snap is maybe you know somebody who injured themselves. They fell maybe on the ice. Hopefully nobody will fall on the ice this winter and break a leg or bone. And you could, if they do though, you can send them this little guy, and he could have like a little bandage. Like we're doing the mummy, you could wrap the leg or the arm depending upon what's broken. So I thought that was kind of cute idea. This is a swap that I got, another swap, so I thought I would show it, where they didn't cut out the gingerbread man. They just used it as a background on, like it's like a piece of dough that hasn't been cut out yet, and I really think that's adorable. And I love that she put it on pink and these little cute little, I think this card is super cute, and I wish I knew whose it was. If you're in my swap and you know who, if it's you, put it in the comment. I want to know who you are. The swap came and I just accidentally took the little cards out of the bag, and the name of the person's in the baggie, and unfortunately now I don't know who made it. But how cute is this? And she put the little cookies in the oven mitt. I think this is adorable. I love that card. And then I got another one in the swap, and it's this little guy, and he's super cute. Sugar and spice and everything nice. So fun. So I love all these little gingies. I love the little peppermints. Those are from last Christmas, and they're still available in the online store through this Christmas. And then they'll probably be gone. So grab some of those if you get the gingerbread man, because you know you'll want them. So fun. Anyway, adorable. So let's make the mummy. So at Card Buffet, I give everybody a packet of supplies. So here we have them. And Card Buffet is just my kind of, everybody comes and just crafts on their own with these little kits. And so sometimes I use some retired products, and I have a bunch of alphabets that if I had some, I put them in the envelope. Otherwise, I brought some black paper so people could cut their own. And I want to show you where all these little pieces come from. So this is just retired paper, and you might have some. If you don't have some that are specifically Halloween, you can use some pumpkin pie cardstock or some other spooky color and put it through an embossing folder so it's got a pattern, or maybe you've got some textured stamps you can add just so it's just not so plain. And I happen to have this, so I'm going to use that. And this little guy. And then I went with very vanilla for my mummy, but it would be totally good in basic white, and you can sponge the edges. I sponged my edges in crumb cake. I just put a whole bunch of these in the bin and people could sponge them to their heart's content. But you could use gray would be a good color. You can use basic gray or gray granite or smoky slate, whatever you've got on hand. And I happen to have this another stamp set called Words for the Season, and I'm using this Have a Spooktacular Halloween. This is another really awesome stamp set to grab, and it has dies with different words like Christmas, so you can use Happy Christmas, Christmas greetings. There's big words for the different holidays, New Year's, Halloween, and Christmas. I don't know what else is on there. Autumn, greetings, holiday, New Year's, Christmas, Halloween, Merry, and wishes, and a banner. Super great. Love that. Okay, but I'm going to use the Spooktacular Halloween. I'm going to go ahead and stamp that. I'm going to go not quite center because I'm going to put a strip of paper here, but I always like to stamp first before gluing anything down in case I make a mistake. You can always flip the paper over, 2 sides to every sheet, right? Well, not always. If it's patterned, it's maybe not. So let's go ahead, and I like to stick my pieces down before I do the main one because I get less things on my desk. All right, so I'm putting some of this pattern on the inside just so that I've got some color on the inside. I'm going to glue that down. Okay. And then on the outside, I'm going to glue this down. This is a piece that's cut 2 inches by 5.5. And that's just a size that I had. Like I said, these are retired papers, and I had some 2-inch strips. That's perfect. All right, so that is my card base. Okay, and then inside each packet is a gingerbread man. So I cut my gingerbread man in very vanilla. And then I have like these scraps in very vanilla, and you can decide what color you want to sponge them in. I sponged with crumb cake, and so I just grabbed a sponge dauber, or I have these older sponges laying around, and I just sponged a lot of little strips from my scrap bag. I have a bag of scraps. Every once in a while I need to go through and throw some away, but I was so happy that I hadn't done that recently, because my stash of these long strips was quite vast and I needed a lot because I had several people do this card at Card Buffet. And some people like to do multiples of the same card. So anyway, I have lots of these little strips. We'll see if this is enough to get me through this guy. All right, so the first thing I did was put down his face. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp using the stamp from the Gingerbread Man. I'm going to put down his little face. So cute. It makes me smile just looking at that. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and attach these strips. Now, you can plan this out or just go for it. I think it looks good either way. The first one I made, I just kind of went for it, and I didn't really plan it out. And then later I thought, you know, I should have planned that out better. And so then I did another one where I did plan it out. And you know what? It didn't look any different. So you can be as meticulous as you want with this. I'm just going to go ahead. I will give a couple tips for when you get towards this crazy body here, but I just went ahead and glued things down. And you can put the glue on the strip or the glue on the head. The one thing I didn't like is if there were weird edges showing, so I did every once in a while look to make sure where it ended. And you could cut these as you go, or you can kind of cut them all at the end. I will say I did like cutting as I go a little bit because I wanted to see what it was looking like. So what I mean by that, and I did some thick, some thin, and like for example this one, I know I'm going to have to go over that, so I'm going to cut it way down here and not worry about it. Okay, so that's going on, and then I started from the feet up, which was a personal preference just based on having done this many times, because when you get to that stomach, it starts to get a little crazy, and you can use different size strips. Like I said, this is a scrap that had something printed on it. And so I got his wrapped legs here. So there's some few tips at the end here. If you get to the end and you've got areas that don't have any sponging, you can always, after you cut the strips off, go around and sponge the edges again. And that is a good tip. I'm kind of tucking in here. And I kind of put it on and then cut, and then I use the same strip again. Skinny one. Oh wait, I wanted to, here's where I, once I got to here, that's when I thought I should do some of these middle body pieces, and I'll show you why. I didn't really like how they ended here. And so by ending them right at the edge here, I could then kind of come across with another one. So I just kind of stuck these down, going on a little angle like that across his body. And I can do a few more of those. And you know, some of this is going to get covered by that banner, so don't make yourself crazy. And honestly, when I planned ahead and did such a great job planning where every little strip was going to go, in the end, it didn't look, I mean, I couldn't even decide which one I liked better. So don't make yourself crazy with these strips. And see, like that one's kind of maybe too chevron-y, I don't know. Maybe it's too patterned. So then you can break it up by going across like that. I need some more up here, some more off to the side here. There's a big one, I like that. Less to do. And maybe I'm going to try to break up that chevron by going across like this. By chevron, I don't know if that's what I mean. Herringbone, what is that? Somebody who knows the words better than me. That's not big enough. Okay, so let me do a couple little stripes here. Okay, so let me put this down. And then I'll give you some tips on that banner. So here I'm going to kind of cover this area that I don't love. Just going to go across, and then it won't be so obnoxious. So I don't like that little tip showing out, so I'm just going to cut it off. Here, no one's going to know that that's under there. Okay, so I'm going to let this sit for a minute and make some of my letters, and then I'll go back over it. I do think I want one like that. See, I'm getting picky now, and really, I'm telling you not to be picky, and I'm getting picky. So I'm going to leave it for a second just to kind of set before I start cutting, because you don't want to, when you're cutting, something will fall apart. And I will work on these letters. Okay, so this little banner is actually cut from, they were like this. and it's from the Stylish Shapes dies. These are used constantly in my desk here. This one is the one I'm using, and I just cut 2 for each card and then cut them in half. So then you've got these, and they're a little longer than I want. So once I get the letters on there and I see where they land, I will trim them up. And then my letters come from the mini alphabet dies, and let me see if where are they? They were right here. Where did I put them? Here they are. So this is a fun little die set, and it comes with letters, numbers, and then like exclamation points, and it does also have some foreign symbols. Which are needed if you're doing something like French. Oh, as you can see, I never used that one, so it's still stuck on there really tight. All right, let me pull this out. So you've got some symbols as well, the AE, OE, stuff like that. So I just need a B, OO, and an exclamation point. So what I do is I have scraps of black, you know, just like I have scraps of vanilla, and when I put them down on my die, I just kind of place them rather than cut all of them at the same time. I just kind of placed my scraps on top of the areas and ran it through my die machine, and then that's how I got them cut out. And I used some adhesive sheets on the back of them, and that kind of turns them into stickers, and I thought that was a great idea. Once I did it, it wasn't as big a deal. I did some without doing that and some doing that, and that's a choice you can decide. But I thought it was kind of, because these are so tiny, it was a little bit hard to get the backing off of the exclamation point in particular. But the O and the B were not so bad. And if you have your take your pick tool, I just kind of run the point across the edge and hope to lift off a little bit of the sticker sheet. And then I can stick it down, but you can use your liquid adhesive as well. So I'll fast forward while I get these on here. Okay, I've got all my letters on here, and I'm gonna kind of put them all together and trim them. I made sure that they were all about the same height, the letters anyway, and then I'm just going to trim my banner down a little bit. Okay, so those adhesive sheets are really nice. Actually, I had no problem with them this time. I think that my fingers might have been really sticky the other time when I was trying to get the backings off, because this time they came out like a breeze. Now, Stampin' Up! Used to sell these. They come in like a sheet about, oh, I don't know, 12 by something, and maybe 6, and they were by Sizzix. Our new brand, we don't carry the Sizzix ones anymore, but they work exactly the same, where you've got, it's got backing on both sides, so you peel off the front, and then you stick your cardstock down, and I stuck down some strips of basic black, so they were like long strips the size of the basic height of the letters, and then I cut them and die cut these letters, and I cut a whole bunch of them out, so I don't have any to show you anymore, but that's how I did it, and it was just made life so much easier. And so I wanted to show you how I store my letters, just because some people don't like that they come on this giant. They'd rather they were individual. I don't mind this at all. I've got them all right here, and it was really easy to cut. Like, all I did was I cut a strips of black. I have these scraps, and I was able to just lay like the 2 O's next to each other. I love that they give you a lot of common letters in multiples. For example, we have 2 E's, 2 A's, 2 O's, 2 L's, stuff that you use a lot of. There are doubles. There's no doubles of the Q, you know, that kind of thing. There's 2 S's, 2 T's, 2 R's. So you can go ahead and put your cardstock just over the letters you need, or you can do the whole row. Sometimes the whole row is easier, because then when you flip it over, you can see where the row is at. I sometimes tape the row down. So if I had these ends left over, well, what do I do with them? Well, you could toss them if you want, but I happen to keep them, and I'll show you how I store them. I bought this little container at Amazon. I'll try and put a link in the description. And it has these little tiny little cubes, and so then I'll keep all those little leftover ends, for example, in here. And so that way I don't waste any of these little letters. So I have letters in different ones. And then sometime if I make a card and I need a letter, I can look in here before cutting them all and see if I have any extras. It's kind of fun to have these little letters on hand. I was making some dinosaur cards that said roar, and so I was cutting a bunch of letters and just, you know, anyway, it's kind of fun to have the different letters, and then eventually you might have a lot of colors and you can do just all different colors, or maybe you have enough to do all the same color, I don't know. That's how I store my letters. And it's just really nice die set to have. They're small enough for cards, but they're bold, so they'd be great on a scrapbook page too. So I really like these. And they're called mini alphabet dies. Okay, this guy's probably dry. I'm gonna cover this up so I don't get ink on something I don't want ink on. Okay, so here we go. Let's cut the backs off. I found it easier to just kind of cut the easy stuff first and get rid of a lot of the bulk. Okay, there he is. There he is. Now you can kind of take a look at him, see if he needs anything. I'm gonna keep those and get rid of these. All right, now let's do that banner. I have a nice, easy way to do it. Oh, I also wanted to tell you how, if you find that once you've cut all these off, you've got an area that's just looking too clean, like the bottom of this foot, for example, you can always take that same sponge and go around the areas that you cut and rough them up a little bit so they're not the only area that doesn't have that sponging on them. There, that looks better. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put this down on my card base. I've got this little piece of leftover dimensionals. Let's finish these off. And then that banner is going to go down pretty easy. I have a trick for tying the ends that makes your life easier. So, all right, so I used baker's twine. And where is my baker's twine? Here it is. I'm using, again, some older baker's twine. You can use linen thread or whatever you have. And I took a piece about the length of his arms, and then I made the bows separately. It was hard to tie bows on both ends, and then also make sure I have the right length, because when you're tying a bow, you know, you need to pull, and so it was really difficult, or it would be really difficult just from past experiences, to tie a bow for each end, maintaining all one string. So it was so much easier to just do it. My hands are getting really full of glue, and now they got little bits of fuzz sticking to them. So it's easier to do this in 3 parts. So I've got 2 little bows and then the center string. And I always do this when I make a banner on a card. If it was a real life banner, maybe it would be different, but this one made life easier. Okay, so let's, there. All right, I need my bows to kind of be similar in size. Let's see how I did. Let's trim those tails a little bit. Okay. All right, so now I just put glue dots down on the 2 ends. And I use my take your pick tool to really poke it in there because I don't want it going anywhere. All right, and then I'm gonna tie, and if I have to, I might have made it a little long here. And I'm gonna add my bows to the ends, right on those glue dots, and I can smush the glue dots so that it's not hanging out past, because you don't want it to catch on your envelope. So I kind of squish the glue dot with my fingernail. Okay. All right, now as for the banner part, I used my letters and they kind of hold the banner in place. So I'm going to grab, again, dimensionals. And I started with the O's, and I'm going to put the dimensionals high up on the pennant, or the little banner piece, because I want them to touch the string so that the string gets held in place. So I'm going to have it lay on the string. And there we have it. There is our little gingerbread man mummy. So cute. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you make one. Take a look at the gingerbread man dies and stamp set. It is so cute. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.